What makes someone truly powerful? Is it their booming voice, their sharp threats, or the way they can dominate a room just by walking into it? Or is real power something more subtle, something invisible, yet impossible to ignore? Picture this. You're standing face to face with a predator in the wild. It doesn't growl, it doesn't pounce, it simply stares, still, quiet, calculating, and somehow, that silence is far more terrifying than any roar. Or imagine a grandmaster in chess. He sits motionless, his opponent sweating bullets, mind scrambling to predict his next move. But the master? He gives away nothing. No emotion, no reaction, just calm certainty. That is power. Real power doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for approval or attention. It radiates from within, from the quiet confidence of someone who has nothing to prove. The ancient Stoics understood this better than anyone. They knew that strength isn't measured by how loud or aggressive you are, but by your ability to remain in control. Control over your mind, your emotions, and the energy you choose to bring into the world. In this video, we'll explore 7 silent strategies from Stoic philosophy that can quietly disarm your enemies and make them think twice before challenging you. Master these, and you won't need to raise your voice to command respect. Your presence alone will speak volumes. So, let's begin. 1. Master your emotions. The greatest power you will ever hold isn't control over others, it's control over yourself. When someone tries to provoke you, when they insult, mock, or try to break your composure, the natural instinct is to fire back. To defend yourself, to prove you're not weak. But here's the paradox. The moment you react emotionally, you hand them control. There is nothing more unsettling to an enemy than a person who cannot be shaken. When they push your buttons and all they get in return is calm, steady indifference, it confuses them. It rattles them. They begin to question their approach, and even themselves. Because how do you fight someone who refuses to be pulled into your chaos? And now, as we move forward, you'll discover even more of these powerful inner weapons, tools that require no shouting, no drama, just pure, silent strength. Let's move to the next. As we saw in the previous section, mastering your emotions isn't just wise, it's a form of silent power that disorients your enemies and renders them powerless. When you refuse to let others dictate your emotional state, you take back control. And your calm presence becomes your most powerful weapon. When people try to manipulate your emotions and fail, your composure becomes their greatest source of frustration. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." True strength doesn't come from yelling, aggression, or the desire for revenge. It comes from the ability to remain centered amidst the storm, to rise above provocations, and to refuse to let others govern how you feel. Let me share a true story. I once knew a man, we'll call him Victor. He worked alongside someone who constantly tried to undermine him. This colleague would throw sarcastic remarks, challenge him in front of others, and always look for ways to trigger a reaction. At first, Victor played right into it. He argued, defended himself, let his frustration show, and with every reaction, his rival gained the upper hand. But then Victor had a realization. Every time he reacted, he gave away his power. So, he made a change. The next time he was insulted, he stayed silent. He didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He didn't even acknowledge the attempt to provoke him. And just like that, the dynamic shifted. His opponent became visibly frustrated. The provocations began to lose their effect. Why? Because Victor refused to give away emotional control. Over time, the attacks stopped entirely. So how do you master your emotions? First, recognize your triggers. Know what unsettles you so that you can prepare for it. Second, practice self-discipline. Pause before reacting. Breathe. Choose your response deliberately. And finally, understand that emotional control is not weakness, it's strength. When you stay calm, you become untouchable. And in a world full of noise and chaos, your composure will be the very thing that makes you unstoppable. 2. Maintain an unshakable presence. True confidence doesn't need to shout. It doesn't beg for attention, nor does it chase approval. Instead, it exists like a quiet force, subtle, steady, yet commanding the moment it enters a room. An unshakable presence is built not on arrogance, but on deep self-assurance. When you know who you are and what you stand for, you no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone. Your posture, your movements, your energy, they all send one clear message. This person knows exactly what they're doing. And here's the truth. Confidence without arrogance is one of the most intimidating forces there is. When you move with certainty, when you take up space unapologetically, people notice. Not because you ask for respect, but because you don't need to. The Stoics understood this well. Lao Tzu once said, "Silence is a source of great strength." Sometimes, power doesn't lie in what you say or do, but in the quiet certainty you project. Silence isn't weakness, it's control. The one who walks into a room and owns their space, without saying a word, is the one others instinctively respect. Let me tell you a story. I once knew a man. Let's call him Marcus. He was never the loudest voice in the room. He didn't seek attention or try to impress anyone. And yet, somehow, people instantly respected him. Marcus had strong posture. Every movement he made was intentional. His energy was unwavering. Whenever he joined a conversation, the room seemed to settle, not because he asked for silence, but because his presence quietly commanded it. He didn't need to raise his voice. His presence alone said more than words ever could. So, how do you cultivate this kind of presence? Start by standing tall. Your posture shapes the way others perceive you, often before you even speak. Shoulders back, head held high. Keep your head held high. Never shrink yourself. Your posture speaks louder than you think. It shapes how others perceive you and how you see yourself. Second, move with intention. Every action should have purpose. Nothing you do should be random or reactive. The powerful don't waste energy on things that don't matter. They move with meaning, as if every step was chosen, not stumbled into. And finally, embrace silence. Those who are truly powerful don't need to announce their presence. They don't need to declare their strength. They simply exist in it. Because in the end, true power is something that's felt, not something that has to be said. Walk into a room with quiet confidence. Own your space, and you'll notice the world begin to treat you differently, without you needing to say a single word. 3. Let your actions speak. Truly powerful people don't waste time announcing their greatness. They don't explain. They don't boast. They act. In a world flooded with empty talk and hollow promises, those who move in silence are the ones who command real respect. Everyone talks. They talk about dreams, about future successes, about big plans. But words are cheap. Real strength isn't in what you say, it's in what you do. Your discipline, your consistency, your ability to follow through. That's what defines you. A person who consistently delivers results never needs to seek validation. Their actions speak for them, louder than any words could. When you focus on doing, you eliminate the need for explaining. You don't have to convince people of your worth. They'll see it in how you carry yourself, in what you produce, in your consistent discipline, and in the quiet determination that follows you wherever you go. And the best part? Your enemies will have nothing to argue with. Words can be twisted, but actions? Actions are undeniable. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that virtue, discipline, and resilience weren't things to be talked about, but lived. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it the moment you stop talking about your strength and start demonstrating it. You become someone others simply cannot ignore, and your enemies cannot defeat." Let me share a story. I once knew a man. Let's call him Adrian. He used to talk a lot about his ambitions. He'd tell everyone about his big plans and how successful he was going to be. At first, people listened, but after months passed and nothing happened, something shifted. People stopped taking him seriously. They smiled, they nodded, but deep down, they dismissed his words as nothing more than talk. Then Adrian made a decision. He stopped talking and started doing. He quit announcing his goals. Instead, he worked in silence. Every day, he showed up. He ignored the doubts, silenced the noise, and focused purely on results. And slowly but surely, people began to notice. Not because he told them, but because they saw the change. His success was no longer a theory. It was real, and suddenly, the same people who once ignored him, now respected him. Let your actions speak, loudly, clearly, unapologetically. First, be consistent. Even the smallest effort, when done repeatedly, will compound over time. You don't need to make huge leaps every day. You just need to show up, put in the work. Keep showing up even when no one is watching. Let persistence be the line that separates you from those who only talk. Second, pursue excellence. Never settle for mediocrity. Whatever you choose to do it with full commitment. Master your craft. Sharpen your skills. Refuse to be average. Strive to be the absolute best at what you do, even when no one is praising you for it. And third, build resilience. Yes, challenges will come. Yes, people will doubt you. But if you keep going, step by step, your perseverance will speak volumes. Your effort will become proof of your strength. At the end of the day, it's not what you say that defines you, it's what you do. Your enemies can argue with your opinions. They can twist your words, but they cannot deny your results. So stop talking, act. Let your actions speak so loudly that no words are ever needed. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more insights that help you build quiet, unshakable strength. 4. Never overreact to insults. In the same way that action is power, restraint is also power. Nothing reveals weakness faster than an emotional outburst to an insult. When someone attacks you with words, your instinct might be to fight back, to defend yourself, to argue, to prove them wrong. But here's the truth. The moment you react, you hand them control. When you get angry or flustered, you give away vital information. You show them where your buttons are, what triggers you, what insults throw you off balance. The painful irony? They don't actually control you. You give them that control. But there's a way to reclaim it, and it's surprisingly powerful. Indifference. Indifference is the ultimate power move. When you refuse to react to an insult, when you remain absolutely unshaken, you instantly flip the dynamic. Now, the other person is left wondering, why aren't you angry? Why didn't that upset you? Why aren't you playing along? And in that moment of doubt, you've already won. This is what the Stoics mastered. Epictetus taught that our emotions should never be dictated by the actions of others. He believed insults only have meaning if we choose to give them power. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If someone throws an insult at you and you remain calm, unmoved, the insult dies right there. But the moment you react, you breathe life into it. You make it real. Let me share a story. There was a woman I once knew. We'll call her Celeste. She had a colleague who constantly tried to undermine her. This person would drop sarcastic remarks during meetings, gossip behind her back, and subtly try to belittle her in front of others. At first, Celeste reacted like most people would. She defended herself. She argued. She tried to prove she was better. But she soon realized something important. Every time she responded, the insults got worse. Then she made a change. Celeste turned the game around, not with words, but with calm, steady silence. And that was when everything began to shift. Each time her colleague tried to provoke her, Celeste did nothing. She stayed calm, unaffected, and completely indifferent. She didn't justify herself. She didn't respond to the insult. She simply continued her work as if nothing had happened. And in that very silence, the dynamic began to change. The insults started to lose their power. Her colleague became visibly frustrated, confused even, because they weren't getting what they wanted, a reaction. They no longer had control over her emotional state. Over time, the insults stopped altogether. Celeste had changed the power dynamic, simply by refusing to give away control of her emotions. So how can you master this skill? First, develop self-awareness. When an insult is thrown your way, pause. Take a breath. Recognize that you have the power to choose how you respond. Your emotions are not a reflex, they are a decision. Second, stay emotionally grounded. The moment you allow someone to provoke you, you surrender control. You're no longer in charge, they are. And finally, embrace indifference. Not every insult deserves your attention. In fact, silence is often far more powerful than any reply. Because at the end of the day, the strongest person isn't the one who hits back, it's the one who can't be shaken. When you refuse to react, you strip your enemies of their power. Let them insult, let them mock, it doesn't matter, unless you allow it to matter. Stay calm, stay composed, and watch how quickly they lose their grip on you. 5. Control what they know about you. Power isn't just about what you do, it's also about what you allow others to know. In a world where everyone's watching, analyzing, and trying to figure you out, the more predictable you are, the easier you are to control if you make your weaknesses, ambitions, or insecurities obvious. You hand people the tools they need to manipulate you. They'll know what you want. They'll know what triggers you. And with that knowledge, they can push your buttons, influence your decisions, and even use your own desires against you. The key to becoming untouchable is learning to control the information you reveal. This doesn't mean lying. It doesn't mean being fake. It means being intentional, choosing what to share, when, and with whom. When you keep certain things to yourself, your struggles, your next moves, even your emotions, you become unpredictable. And those who are unpredictable cannot be controlled. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Sun Tzu once said, "Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak." A true strategist understands that real power lies in controlling perception. If you're too open, too transparent, people will know exactly how to defeat you. But if you hold back, if you reveal only what's necessary, you remain a mystery. Impossible to predict, impossible to manipulate. Let me share a story. I once knew a man. Let's call him Damon. Damon used to be an open book. He shared everything, his personal struggles, his frustrations, even his long-term ambitions. With his coworkers, he believed that transparency would earn him trust and loyalty, but over time, he began to realize a hard truth. That same openness was making him vulnerable if he mentioned feeling overwhelmed. He'd suddenly find himself under even more pressure if he confided in someone about a challenge. Soon enough, others were questioning his capability. His own words were being used against him, not by strangers, but by the very people he had opened up to. So Damon made a change. He stopped oversharing. He spoke less about his personal challenges. He only shared his ambitions when absolutely necessary, and most importantly, he became more selective about whom he trusted. And then something surprising happened. People began respecting him more. Not because he changed his skills, but because they could no longer predict him. They couldn't anticipate his next move. They couldn't twist his words, because he had stopped giving them the material to do so. Damon had taken back control, not through confrontation, but by becoming unreadable. So how can you develop this same kind of control? First, be intentional about what you share. Not everyone needs access to your deepest thoughts, your fears, or your goals. Second, embrace mystery. The less predictable you are, the harder it is for others to manipulate or steer you off course. And finally, use your power with precision. Show your strength only when it's necessary. Appear vulnerable only when it serves your purpose. Control perception, and you control the game, because at the end of the day, the less others know about you, the more power you hold. Protect your inner world. Keep your plans, your struggles, and your emotions guarded. Make it difficult for others to define you, and you'll become impossible to control. If you've made it this far, drop a comment that says, "Stay unpredictable," and give this video a like. Your support means the world to us and helps this channel keep growing. Let's keep learning and growing together. Thank you for watching. 6. Make power moves in silence. The loudest people in the room are rarely the most powerful. Those who constantly announce their plans, their ambitions, and their next big move often give away their greatest advantage. The element of surprise. There is something undeniably powerful about moving in silence. About quietly working in the shadows while the world remains unaware of your progress in a society where everyone is eager to broadcast their dreams, strategies, and next steps. Restraint becomes a rare and commanding strength because the more you reveal, the more exposed you become. You open yourself to doubt, criticism, and interference. Some will try to discourage you. Others will offer unsolicited advice. And there will always be a few who they'll actively try to stand in your way. But here's the thing. When your ambitions are kept private, those obstacles lose their power because no one can block what they can't see coming. That's the hidden advantage of moving in silence. Announcing your next step might feel exciting, even motivating, but in reality, it invites noise, resistance, criticism, jealousy, interference. When people don't know what you're planning, they can't predict your strategy. They can't sabotage your progress. They can't manipulate your momentum. You become untouchable, unstoppable, uncontrollable, because your silence becomes your shield, and your results become the only message that matters. This is exactly what the Stoics understood. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." The wise don't waste time justifying their direction. They move, they build, they execute, and when success arrives, they let it speak for itself, loud and clear. Let me tell you a story. A woman I once knew, let's call her Naomi, had a habit of sharing everything: her latest goals, her next projects, her dreams. She believed that talking about them made them more real, more powerful, and at first, it did feel that way. She felt seen, supported, but as time passed, she noticed a shift. The more she talked, the harder it all became. People began questioning her decisions, offering advice she never asked for, even doubting whether she had what it takes. And worst of all, those doubts crept into her own mind. She started second-guessing herself. The voices around her became louder than the one within her. Until one day, Naomi made a choice. She stopped announcing. She didn't talk about what she was going to do, she just did it. She focused. She shut out the noise. She worked in silence. And when her success finally came, it didn't need defending. Her results were crystal clear. Her work spoke louder than any words ever could. So how do you make power moves in silence? 1. Keep your plans private. Not everyone deserves access to your dreams. Let your success be the surprise. 2. Stay focused. Talking is easy. Execution is rare. What you do is all that matters. 3. Let results speak for you. People will see your consistency, your resilience, your excellence, and you'll never have to explain a thing because at the end of the day, true power doesn't shout, it shows. Keep your ambitions sacred. Work relentlessly in the shadows. And let your success speak so loudly, no words are needed. 7. Be unapologetically yourself. In a world where everyone's adjusting themselves to fit in, trying to please, chasing validation, the most powerful person is the one who refuses to apologize for who they truly are. Standing firm in your true identity in a world full of expectations is an act of quiet rebellion. But rebellion rooted in authenticity commands both respect and fear. Most people are desperate to be liked. They suppress their real opinions, hide their strengths, and tone down what makes them unique, just to blend in. But here's the truth. When you stop trying to fit in, You become untouchable the moment you release your need for external approval. You shift the power dynamic. You no longer need to impress anyone, and that makes you immune to their judgment. And nothing unsettles others more than someone who doesn't need their validation. That's why the Stoics always emphasized living in alignment with your true nature. They believed that chasing approval from others is a trap that only leads to misery. Epictetus once taught, freedom doesn't come from being accepted. It comes from being independent of others' opinions. When you stop seeking validation, you gain something even more valuable, self-respect. And when you respect yourself, the world begins to follow. Let me share a story with you. There was a man I knew. Let's call him Elias. For years, he changed himself to fit into various social groups. He laughed at jokes he didn't find funny, downplayed his achievements so others wouldn't feel insecure, and constantly adjusted his personality to match those around him. But over time, Elias felt drained, disconnected, and lost. He had spent so long pretending that he no longer knew who he truly was. Then one day, Elias made a decision. He stopped pretending. He started speaking his mind. He stood firm in his beliefs. And he stopped caring whether others agreed with him. And something remarkable happened. People started respecting him more. They admired his confidence, his authenticity, and his refusal to conform. The best part? Elias no longer needed to wear a mask to feel accepted. The people who truly valued him stayed, and those who couldn't handle his truth faded away. Either way, he won. So how do you become unapologetically yourself? 1. Stop seeking validation. You don't need anyone's permission to be who you are. The moment you stop chasing approval, you gain real power. 2. Embrace your uniqueness. The things that make you different are your greatest strengths. Don't hide them. Let them shine. 3. Live by your own standards. Stop following rules designed to keep you small. Set your own path. Let your life reflect your true self. Those who live authentically cannot be controlled, and the world fears what it cannot manipulate. So be unapologetically you. Stand firm in your identity, and watch as people either respect you or disappear. Either way, you win. At the end of the day, true power comes from within. When you stop seeking approval, when you refuse to shrink yourself to fit others' expectations, you become untouchable, not because you're trying to impress, but because you've learned to stand fully in your own strength. Own who you are, and the world will have no choice but to respect you. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment with "Power in Silence" and share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful insights on mastering yourself and commanding respect effortlessly. And always remember, the strongest person is the one who needs no validation. Stay disciplined, stay unshaken, and I'll see you in the next video.